Good night and welcome to the Zenaida and Derek show. Tonight is going to be an exciting night. We're going to have a 2-hour special. We will be having, shortly before we start the discussion, we will be having a dancer. She'll be coming up. What's her name, Derek?
Yeah, let me just tell you. You know that first of all, good night, Belizeans, especially our Belizean brothers and sisters in the diaspora. A special good night to all of you and those in the homeland. As Zenaida said, tonight is an extraordinary show that we've planned for you. We're going to actually be able to receive your calls at some point during the show. So you'll be able to call in to share your views with us. We always start with a meditation, but tonight we thought that we would do something out of the ordinary. And so the meditation tonight will be in the form of a liturgical dance. We're very much aware that just yesterday, right in front of these very same premises, as they say, in front of the zinc fence, somebody was shot. I understand, I don't know if this is accurate information, but some of the brains spilled out on the streets right in front of this premises. Things are at an all-time low in this nation, and so this meditation song that we've chosen, which will be done by Miss Chriselle Baptiste, is called Save Us, O God. And so I ask you to please listen very carefully to the words of this song as she brings this to you in the form of a liturgical prayer. Could we please give her a big hand at home, relax and enjoy. Zenaida and I will sit and watch her do this dance.
Sins of our nation, Lord, we are guilty of a prayerless life. We've turned away our hearts from your love, have taken for granted your unchanging grace. Turn away this curse from our country. We say that we've robbed you, and our storehouses are bare. Open wide the floodgates of heaven, rebuke the devourer, so we may not be destroyed. You said that if we'd humble ourselves and begin to pray, you would heal our barren land and cleanse us with your grace. Don't pass us by. Let this be the generation, Lord, that lifts up your name to all the world. Save us, oh God. Save a people for yourself, oh Lord. Let the fear of the Lord be their standard. Save us, oh God. Cleanse us from our unfaithfulness. Let the place where we live be called a house of prayer. sins of our nation. And Lord, we are guilty of a prayerless life. We've turned away our hearts from your laws, have taken for granted your unchanging grace. Turn away this curse from our country. Say that we love you, and our storehouses are bare. Open wide the floodgates of heaven. Rebuke the devourer, so we may not be destroyed. You said that if we humble ourselves and begin to pray, you would heal our barren land and cleanse us with the rain.
been a phenomenal show so far. It seems a bit different, and I know it's different from, and the usual viewers are wondering what is happening. Well, this is a show that Mr. Derek Aikman will definitely be speaking a bit more. It's going to be a very educational and informative show. At the moment, we have in studio, we have our guests. We have some of our guests. And perhaps we can go ahead, it's okay, introduce yourself.
Yes, good evening. My name is Ian Mariano. I'm a teacher and I'm representing the Belize National Teachers Union.
Yes.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Harley Byrne. I'm a local revolutionary and I'm a Belizean citizen.
But how can you not say that you're River of Fire, the famous River of Fire? How can you leave that out, River?
River of Fire.
Famous River of Fire.
All right, good night. My name is Abdul Nunes. I'm representing the BPP.
Good night. My name is Alex Sanka, Artist for Life, representing me and my fellow artist Zenaida Belize.
Great.
Yes.
Welcome to all you guys. It's such a pleasure and an honor to
Yes.
have you here with us tonight. This
And
is going to be a phenomenal show.
And I must say, all these paintings adorning the wall
Awesome.
are Mr. Sanka's,
The proud work
and
of Mr. Sanka,
man, I
yes.
mean, they're exceptional. So again, this is different. Yeah, I know you must be saying these are beautiful.
Zenaida, he made a point of telling me that there are $2 million worth of paintings on these walls. So Creme Studio is rich tonight.
Not yet.
Not yet. Soon. So we will be having Mr. Aikman speak in a short while, but we'll also be telling you that we will be asking our guests in studio as well. They'll also get an opportunity to respond to whatever Mr. Aikman has said as well. We will also be, we have our phones and you'll be able to call us if you have any questions that you may ask, but we will do so. We'll open the phones, I would say after the second ad break, just because we need to give time for everyone to speak. All right, but we will be informing you that number will be 615-9494.
And 621-0764.
Okay, without going any further, Derek, I recall it's almost a month ago that you were on the show. I believe it was September the 27th, or today is what, the 26th, so it would have been the 27th, September the 27th of September, it was a Wednesday, and you were on the show. And the issue that we had spoken about, one of the issues, the key issue really had to do with the secrecy of the ballot. And people might be wondering, well, why are we here 1 month after, because it's only a day less than a month, 1 month after, and we will be speaking on the issue. It's because it's an important issue, and this show will be a show that we will be speaking on this issue, and we need to, there always has to be closure, all right? And I believe one of the questions that I had asked at the time, Derek, was, okay, we spoke about the voting simulation that was done at St. Mary's Parish Hall. We thereafter held a voting simulation right here. I was not here during that voting simulation because I was ill. However, that was done. It was done live. It was done on camera. And we had in studios real persons who many of them you had never met before, you did not know. A lot of them were persons, I must say, that I had invited. Sick as I was, I managed to at least do that part. And so they were here. And what came out of it was that you were able, without a shadow of a doubt, say specifically how those individuals voted. Now, for those naysayers who may say, well, it were 10 persons who were part of the simulation, and it could not be a whole lot because it was only a 1 hour show. the point is that every single one of
It was
them you
actually
could
12,
say.
actually.
It were 12.
It was 25 at St. Mary's Hall and 12,
12
here in
here.
the studio, yes.
You were able to say specifically how they voted. Now, one of the questions I had asked at the first show, when you were a guest actually, I said, what could be done so that, you know, this knowledge about the vote, about how a person vote, does not occur. You know, the serial number is on the ballot, the serial number is on the stub, the ballot stub, and on the ballot. You informed that, well, it's one of the ways, or the key way that you looked at was that keep the serial number on the ballot stub. However, on the actual ballot that is torn off, take off the number of that. And then another question I asked, I said, well, what happens, do you believe that the government has the, do you believe the government would try to ensure that whatever remedies need to be done are done before the upcoming municipal election, which is always the first, every 3 years, the first Wednesday in March. And you did not believe it would happen, I believe. However, it has to be done. So this is why we're here. And we're hoping that this show will bring about more knowledge and will really hold those decision makers to task and show them that, you know what, this has to be done. This really has to be done. And so with that said, I really want to ask you to go ahead and do your presentation.
Okay, thank you so much, Zenaida. Again, good evening, those of you in television land. Good night to our guests in studio. Ladies and gentlemen, let me first say that tonight, from where I stand, is a very, very critical night in this nation's history. As far as I'm concerned, this is going to be a defining moment in Belize tonight. Because my task here is not a happy one for me, to be honest with you. It pains me. I am saddened by the fact that it has gotten to this. It has gotten to the place, Belizeans, at home and abroad, where I have got to come before this nation tonight and regrettably tell you and prove to you that the chief elections officer is misrepresenting the truth. I'm choosing my words carefully because I want to maintain the utmost respect for the three people that I've got to challenge and expose tonight for the blatant untruth that they're maintaining in this land. I speak specifically about the chief elections officer who issued a release just recently on this matter, and I'll get to that. I also have to put to task our Prime Minister, who, along with the leader of the opposition, and that's my next prominent person in this nation that I've got to put on the carpet tonight. The leader of the opposition, the Prime Minister of this country, the Chief Elections Officer. Regrettably, my role tonight is to show you, the Belizean people, that these three people are being untruthful to this nation when, after all that we have done to expose the fact that your vote is not secret, still, as of today, these three people have decided to hold one head and take the position still and maintain, and clearly, therefore, it's obvious that they intend to keep the present status quo of keeping the electoral system exactly as it is presently telling you that your vote is secret. Believe them. The vote is secret. Bufford is talking nonsense. I think the press release ends from the Chief Elections Officer that it is without merit. There's another word, and I have it here. I'll get to that. But tonight, in the presence of the Almighty, who sees and knows all things, I am here tonight to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt, Belizeans, that you are being lied to. I can't say it any other way. You are being lied to by your leaders and the person who has the responsibility to conduct the affairs of our nation's elections by perpetuating a mistruth that your vote is secret. It is not secret. And I tell you, it is my firm belief that they know it is not secret. But there is a reason why they are insisting to defy the truth and perpetuate this travesty to our democracy. If you'll permit me, it is our Prime Minister who used these very words some time ago to describe the state of affairs in the Ministry of Natural Resources. He said, "It is a hotbed of corruption," unquote. Well, I state boldly before you, Belize, tonight, that the entire electoral process in this land has been and is today a hotbed of corruption. If you'll permit me, for those of you who are old enough to relate to this account that I will share, especially for our younger Belizeans who may not be knowledgeable about this. As an individual, I first became suspect of our electoral process back in 1979, when, from all accounts, from all indications, the United Democratic Party was poised to win the elections, the general elections of 1979. I was already a student studying in Miami. It's now St. Thomas University. At that time, it was Biscayne College. And at that time, Tansasa had a very early flight where you leave Miami at 7 and get to Belize at 7. And because at that time I was a young protege, I guess, of the United Democratic Party, I came home that day, on election day, 1979, just to work in the Fort George division and, well, to celebrate an anticipated unprecedented victory by the opposition, because the PUP, as you know, had ruled the nation ever since its inception. But this was the first time, from all accounts, the UDP, that was the heyday of your Ken Tillett and your other vibrant politicians, would bring victory to the United Democratic Party. And I'll tell you, when I arrived at the airport that morning, you could taste, you could smell, you could see victory in the air. Customs officers at the airport were making the victory sign to everybody that checked in. Immigration officers. I mean, there was a celebratory mood even at the airport amongst the workers there. The slogan was "Time for a change," and everybody believed that the change was coming and that the UDP finally would become the government. So I traveled down from the airport, you know, every lamppost, every house, I mean, the banners, the neon lights, even though it was day, you could see the lights, the bulbs for the lights anyway. I mean, it was clear that the atmosphere was filled with an anticipated UDP victory. The polling, I worked at Fort George, in the Fort George division, the polling closed, and I don't know how I ended up. At the time, the Vasquezes, who owned Channel 7, lived on Albert Street, right at the corner of Albert and Dean, where the Channel 7 studio is, or well, was, because I think it's moved up the road. But anyway, how I ended up there, I don't know. This place crowded of people up there, everybody anticipating the election results. And I will never forget what happened that night. Just give me a second, my battery fell off. Just give me 1 second, please. I will never forget what happened that night. The first results that came out, Jane Usher beat Paul Rodriguez in Pixel. I never saw big men and women faint, start to bawl, everybody smelling salts, rubbing alcohol to revive people. I mean, clearly it was a UDP stronghold at that house, no? Paul Rodriguez, the first one to go down. Then, I will never forget, the next person to go down was Dean Lindo, was defeated by Said Musa. Dean Lindo, of course, was the leader of the UDP going into those elections. And ladies and gentlemen, those of you who are old enough, you will remember, one by one by one, these promising UDP stalwarts that were leading in these constituencies was being defeated one after another, after another. Even the heroic Kentilit went down by one vote in the Collett by Harry Courtney. And I saw men and women bawl and bawl and bawl. I could see aspirations dashed, hopes dashed that night. And I began to wonder, how could an electorate that was so clearly highly UDP charged, how could that electorate still go and vote completely opposite to what they were manifesting and displaying in the streets and everywhere you went that day? Something was wrong with that picture for me. The next morning, I went right back the next morning to Miami, so I had to get to the airport very early to catch the flight. Let me tell you, it was like a ghost town, as though the death angel had passed over Belize. Nobody was in the streets, there was no rejoicing, there was no celebration. A party had just won a victory. Why were they not out there celebrating, as is common and customary after an election result, whichever party wins? But that day, there was no PUP jubilation in the streets of the city. Absolutely none. Then I got back to Miami, and then I began hearing stories about disappearing ink off the ballot paper, that you were putting an X by somebody's name for one party, and then it was reappearing for the other. All sorts of stories that just didn't cut it for me. But I knew something was wrong. Something had to be wrong. And ladies and gentlemen, after some research and some studies, I began to analyze the results of that election. A man like Lindy Rogers in Mesopotamia. Lindy was an all-powerful stalwart of the PUP, almost, if not more popular than Mr. Price himself. Yet that night, Lindy Rogers lost to a rookie, my dear departed brother, the late Curl Thompson. Was his first election. Total novice to politics. Defeated a legend like Lindy Rogers in Mesopotamia. It just wasn't adding up. But I'm a very determined, I need to get answers. It just did not make sense. And after analysis and understanding, I tried to understand the system. How did it work? And then I got my answer. All that was done, the PUPs, they had been in power for so long, they understood the system, they manipulated the system, they were the bosses of the system. So all that they did, because I guess the UDP was so overconfident, they weren't, as my friend Figan likes to, or his move text, they were checking their change in their pockets. And what was done for that election was they moved voters, in the case here of Lindy Rogers. He was a stronghold in Mesa. They took, because they knew the party was in trouble and would lose. If the elections had been fair, the UDP would have won, and the PUPs would have been trounced at the polls. But what did they do? They strategically moved voters from divisions where the PUP had strong leads and put them in constituencies where they know their candidates were marginalized and would lose to the UDP. And so they bolstered those weak divisions by moving voters out of the strong constituencies into these other weak constituencies to bolster their weak candidates. And it's a science. They did it like a science. And that is how the UDP was defeated in 79. There was no disappearing ink. There was no magical thing happening when you voted. They had simply manipulated the system with the support of whoever was running the elections and boundaries at that time. They gerrymandered the voters, moved them across boundaries, padded the lists in those divisions, and delivered a victory for the PUP. That was aided and abetted by those running the Elections and Boundaries Commission at that time. So, because I had come to that understanding at a young age of 18 years old, when I returned home in 1980, I ran my first election for the UDP. We all lost because they were so trounced in 79. The party was in tatters and shambles. In fact, they didn't even want to run the elections of 1980, the city council elections of 1980, but it was Mr. Bolton. I'll never forget, the office was there on King Street, upstairs of KY Club, who said to them, "You're going to boycott the city council elections because you lost the general in 79? He said, "That's nonsense. I've never heard that. The purpose of an opposition is to contest the government at every election in an attempt to unseating them." So it was through Mr. Golson's insistence in 1980 that the UDP even contested the city council elections of 80, which I was a part of, and we all lost. In 83 was my next election, city council. We were victorious at that time. And this now is where I will tell you, before I get to 84, in the Freetown division. In 1983 is where, for the first time in my naive political walk, that I stumbled upon accidentally at St. Mary's Hall during the counting of the votes for the city council election. And I will call his name, he's now deceased. He was my teacher at SJC, the late Homero Escalante, heavy PUP stalwart, lives right across from the racetrack, and SJC then Princess Margaret Drive. Anybody who knows politics and been around, you know that Homero Escalante was one of the strong PUP supporters. But at the count that night at St. Mary's Hall, I saw him at a table in front of the counting officers who were counting the ballots. He was simply writing down some numbers. I could understand what he was doing. So I went to him and I said, "Mr. Escalante, what is it you're doing writing down those numbers?" And he looked at me like, "You don't know what I'm doing? You don't know what I'm doing?" And I said, "No, I don't." He said, "Well, I can't tell you that now. I can't." And continued his exercise. But I'm curious for a second. I walked around. And at that time, unlike today, they used to bring all the ballot boxes from throughout the entire city to count at that one place, St. Mary's Hall. Not like now where they count the divisions in their respective constituencies and they just report the results. No, the 10 divisions used to have to bring their boxes to St. Mary's. So imagine St. Mary's Hall was like a flea market. I mean, just crowded and boxes and counting. So I went around and I saw other people doing the same thing. So I asked a young man who I didn't know whether he was UDP, PUP. I said, "My brother, I see people around the counting station writing down numbers. What are you doing?" He said, "Mr. Aikman, you don't know what I'm doing?" I said, "No, I don't. If I knew, I wouldn't be asking." Unlike Mr. Escalante, he took the time to tell me what he was doing. And he explained that during the vote, when the polls open, the presiding officer starts out by telling you, "Okay, I'm starting," well, you know, they open the ballot box, make sure it's empty and all that. But as a scrutineer, you're in there, and the presiding officer tells you, "Okay, so we're going to begin the process, and I'm going to start with this first ballot book." I think the ballot book has 500 ballots in there. And on the front of the ballot book, this is the one we made for the simulation that we did. We duplicated exactly what election boundaries produces. Tells you that what the beginning number is on the series up to the last number. That is said to the persons in the polling station. He said, "So all you have to do, when the voters begin to come in to vote, and because you know that they tear the ballot sequentially out of the ballot book, So if this ballot book, let's say, has, just for simplicity's sake, it has 100 ballots in there. We know the first one then is 001 and it goes to 100. So if Derek Aikman is the first person who comes in to vote, you know that Derek Aikman is getting ballot 001. And so you run the line through my name as you do through for every voter that comes in, and you simply record the ballot number that they're getting. And that's the first part of the process. There are those who believe that you have to go back into the ballot box after this to determine how people vote. Not at all. It's a simple process. Right there the night of the count, you know how people vote. Because the law requires that the counting officer that is doing the count must first show the scrutineers and the counters the front of the ballot. So let's go back to 84 when it was Aikman against Price. So they have all the UDP votes on a pile. The counting officer has to pick up the first, and they're counting it by party. So they're going to count the UDP votes now. So they pick up the first ballot. Derek Aikman. So it's a vote for Derek Aikman, but they've got to show the counters the ballot to make sure that the X is properly by my name. It's not running across into George Price's box, or there's no question as to the certainty of the vote. But when they show you the front of the ballot, by law, they have to show you the back of the ballot, because if the presiding officer's signature is not on the back of the ballot is spoiled. So you've got to show the vote, the counters, the back of the ballot, but behind the ballot, you've got the ballot number, which is right above which the presiding officer has to initial to validate the vote. So when you are showing the back of the ballot, that is when, like Mr. Escalante and the others, they would simply be writing down ballot numbers. And you know these ballot numbers are the ballots that were UDP ballots. And when they count the PUP ballots, you know these are the numbers, because you are writing them down as they show you. These are the ballots numbers that are PUP votes. And ladies and gentlemen, after that, it's like 1, 2, 3. All you need to do is go back now to your scrutineers who are recording the ballot numbers during the day. And you just simply have to match. Okay, let's say the first ballot number you have recorded that voted UDP for Aikman is 125. Let's see. You check your list. Who got ballot number 125 during the day in the polling station? Oh, Zenaida Moya got ballot number 125. Then you know Zenaida voted UDP, voted for Derek Aikman. And right down the list continues. I mean, within half an hour, literally, you can tell exactly how every single voter voted in this country. And it's been happening, I'm sure it was happening before 1983, you know. I am telling you, I found out in 1983. And I found out from a PUP operative, which means the PUP knew from way there. I went immediately to Mr. Esquivel, who was the party leader. I said, Mr. Esquivel, you never believe what I just found out. They can tell how you vote, you know. They're doing it right now. And so, oh, that's nonsense. That's not possible, was his answer. And dismissed me. Just dismissed me. But let me jump quickly. I'll leave that there for right now. Let me jump quickly to 1984. Because I want to demonstrate to you the practice of leaders in the country manipulating those who work for the public, as in this case, the Election and Boundaries Commission and Chief Elections Officer. You all know the story that I ran against George Price. My list, they had just, I would use the word gerrymandered. They had just gerrymandered the constituencies in this country and changed it from 18 to 28. They added 10 divisions. And they took the original Freetown and they split it in two, made Caribbean Shores and made Freetown. Mr. Esquivel, who was always the Freetown candidate, chose that he would run in Caribbean Shores, and Freetown was left without a candidate. So I stepped to the plate. And when those of you who remember, you recall, Freetown had a tail. They took it all the way up to Price Barracks in Ladyville from Belize City. Had a long tail. Why? Because there were lots of PUP supporters in the BDF at that time, and that was the purpose. But the point I want to make is this, that it was clear, because I had the experience of 1979 always in my consciousness, that they were able to manipulate the system to win an election for the PUP. I started out with one undertaking, that I have to make sure that that list they give me in Freedom is a bona fide list free of any fraud before I run any election. And so the first thing I did was to check that list, and sure enough, there were over 370 odd people on that Freedom list that should not have been on that list. They were there fraudulently. I went to court to challenge it, and none other than the then chief elections officer went to court and swore on the Bible that that list was bona fide, it was legitimate, it was free of any fraud, there was nothing wrong with it, when that man knew that he was lying. But I believe he was under the pressures of the then government. They wanted to ensure a victory for George Price at any cost. Even if the party lost, George Price was not to lose. And they did everything to try and keep that list padded with those voters. But I got to work. I paddled in Doriop River in that airport area, because all of that was in Freedom to verify where, because it was, if you're on one side of the bank, you're on Freedom. If you're on the other side of the bank, you're in another division. I paddled rivers. I went through streams, I went through swamp, just to make sure I could account for every vote. And at the end of the day, long story short, the time is running out, I ended up mailing letters, because they had like 20 people registered and from an address that was just an empty lot. The bush was higher than me, but yet 20 voters at that location. And that was what they did all over the constituency, all with PUP voters loyal to George Price. And so I had to register letters to these names at these addresses that did not exist. And the postman would go diligently with the letters at the addresses, and when he found an empty lot, or when he found a broken down house, or when he would get to a house that existed, but because they weren't expecting the mailman, they didn't cue the residents to lie, the residents would say, oh, Peter Brown, he don't live here. He lived at PG. He only come here sometimes on weekends. But they had him on the list at that address. And so the postman had to write, does not live here, lives in PG. Things like that. And so at the end of the day, I took my returned registered mail to the judge in the court. And this time you have top PUP brass lawyers, Lois Young, Derek Courtney, this other brother, has his office on North Front Street. Name eludes me now, but I mean, they were in court fighting to defend a fraudulent list to get George Price elected. I had nobody, not a lawyer at my side. And I braved it all. In fact, it even got to a place where Roy got so upset with me, he wanted to start a fight in the court because I told him that he was lying. And I said, well, let's fight. And Mr. Singh, the judge, had to call us and threaten us to throw us off the court if we don't behave, that sort of thing and stuff. Long story short, Mr. Singh struck out over 370 odd names off that list for Freedom. I don't have time to tell you about the last ploy that they tried before, up to the election eve night, to pad it, having to take off the list that he ordered, the names. They padded it on the eve of the election with over 200 voters, PUP voters from Port Wayne. Had to go wake the man up out of his bed on the eve. He called Roy and said, Roy, let me tell you, if you don't clean and remove these names by 7 in the morning, there will be no election in Freedom Division tomorrow morning. So at around 4 o'clock, we got the list from Mr. Young. Thank you. From Mr. Young with the names removed. So look at what we had to go through in one division alone to have a fair election, because the elections and boundaries chief and workers, registering officers, were in collusion with the leadership of the day to bring about a victory. That was a dishonest victory. At least that was their intention. And the story is told. When the votes were cast on election day, you know what I beat George Price by? 306. So if you think the 370 odd was a mistaken calculation on the power's part to pad that list fraudulently with that amount of votes, they knew exactly the population that was out there. They knew the partisan divide, and they knew exactly how many they needed to put on the list fraudulently to bring a victory for George Price. No. It's 2017, ladies and gentlemen. It's the 26th of October, and this is a sad night for me. Oh dear, my glasses. It's in my bag. Oh my gosh! I forgot.
All right.
I need to read.
We're gonna go. We have to go
break.
to break right now. When we come back, we're gonna continue hearing from Mr. Aikman.
I apologize.
Stay
I just need to
tuned.
get my glasses since I have to read for you. Thank you.
Ask any landscape professional who they depend on for professional grade power tools, and the answer is always the same. Echo. Ask any dealer who offers the most powerful, most durable, and most reliable equipment in the business, and they'll tell you, Echo. Then ask yourself, doesn't your lawn and garden deserve the professional's choice? Echo. The best outdoor power equipment you can buy.
Tell Digicel nobody try cause a smarter run the show. Every time them a try say switch my provider, me say no. Me no want your plan, nobody want your plan. Digicel we no want your plan, we no want your plan. Nobody want your plan, cause smarter run the nation. Me no want your plan, nobody want your plan. Digicel we no want your plan, we no want your plan. Nobody want your plan, cause smarter run the nation. Smart have all the best plans. Me could choose between this one and that one. Smart 4G are the best one. Me no got time for the Digicel one. Viber, Facebook, Snapchat, send videos and voice clipping on me WhatsApp. Smart and love and we know a nice phone and we want it. Smart, bringing people together. Glamour glasses.
Buying or selling land can be a daunting experience. Don't leave things to chance. When buying or selling land in Belize, seek the professional real estate services of Moya Shepherd and Company Limited. Benefit from our extensive local and international network to find your dream home or to move your property from selling to sold. Our land consultancy services also include appraisals, conveyances, registrations, surveys, transfers, title searches, and the preparation of all other legal documentation and land transaction processes. We are located at 5 miles Philip Golson Highway. Give us a call at 223-4465 or visit us at www.cbelizerealestate.com.
Geo Motors, the best motor for Belize. It is here, a new brand with a new edge on motorsports when it comes to performance. They are here in your geolocation. Geo Motors, the best motor for Belize. It's the new brand with a new edge in motorsports when it comes to performance. Now they're here in your geolocation. These new Geo bikes are the improved version of motorbikes in their class, with a silent engine and new electrical safety features. When it comes to durability, the wheels carry no spokes. They guarantee a safer and stronger ride. If you think about your gas mileage, Geo has the best, most fuel-efficient motors. The best motors you could buy. Our 2.0 engines are designed to burn less fuel to produce more power, keeping you riding firm and comfortable for longer. Even if you go faster, Geo Motor will take you. Geo will take you anywhere you wish. So go countrywide today. Use the number on your screen and call our agent near you.
Good night. Welcome back. It has been a very interesting and informative show. Mr. Aikman has been revealing quite a bit, and it's information worth knowing. It's information that I know a lot of you out there have never heard before. He did mention some of it when he was a guest on the show prior to it. However, during this segment, he is now going into the meat of the matter. And so I would ask that you sit back and you really pay attention to exactly what he will reveal during this segment.
Okay, thank you very much. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I apologize that I didn't have my glasses, but we're ready to go now. Okay. So, it's 2017. I am concerned that the reason you want to keep a system where you can tell how the voters vote is for one purpose and one purpose alone. It is so that you can continue to pay voters to vote how you want them to vote. The only reason that any party, officially as a party, or any candidate that's running in an election, the only reason why you'd be prepared to pay a voter $200, $300, $400. Listen, I have heard prices way up into the thousands of dollars to vote in an election. Take sense out of nonsense. Who in their right mind would throw away that kind of money per voter as a gamble, just as a gamble, with no assurance that the voter will vote how you are paying them to vote? The only reason they pay voters to vote is because they know exactly how to tell how they vote, and that's why they get part of the money in the morning on election day. And then they wait until they can determine if you actually voted how you're supposed to vote for how you're being paid to vote, and then you collect the rest the next day. Listen, election has become a marketable commercial undertaking in this country. Voters boast. You vote yet? It's 5 o'clock. No, I'm waiting to see who wants to pay me more, the UDP or the PUP. I mean, that's just common position out there. People are marketing their vote to the highest bidder. It's become a commercial undertaking. So voters are no longer choosing candidates from parties who are the better skilled, those with more vision, those who are dedicated to nation building. They are not electing the best leaders. Why? Because that doesn't enter their concern for the most part. Because not everybody sell their vote, but the majority of people out there are selling their votes. And so it doesn't matter the caliber of the candidate. You could have the best person on that ballot, but if they can't pay you to vote for them, you're going to vote for the worst possible candidate, because they can put $1,000 in your hand. What's the end result of that? You end up with a government that is unworthy of governing you, that is unworthy of governance. Hence the reason we're in the crisis we are today. Because those that are in leadership didn't get there because they won the confidence of your vote. They got there because they bought your vote. And so they don't care whether they're delivering good governance or not, because they bought their way into power. And that's the crux of the matter here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. The powers that be, the Prime Minister, the leader of the opposition, and the Chief Elections Officer are on record that they will maintain this system that they have right now, where they can tell how you vote. And I will allow me now to get into some facts and documents. When Buffer offered or decided we would do the first simulation, what did we do? We didn't just go on our own and run up and have a simulation. I wrote to the Chief Elections Officer. I wrote begging the Chief Elections Officer and her team to conduct the simulation. We didn't want to have any part in it because we didn't want them to say we manipulated what we're doing in any manner, shape, or form. No, we went to the authority that's charged with the responsibility in this land to conduct elections. So they could have conducted it at the same level that they would conduct any election anytime in this country. And we were going to show them, even when they were running it, that we would have been able to tell exactly how everybody voted right under their very eyes, because we know exactly how it's done. But what? Their Election and Boundaries Commission told them that they, at least that's what I was told in response from the Chief Election Officer, that they were not given permission to do it. So Bufford had to do it on its own. But we are people of integrity, and I know how the thing is done. I just wanted them to do it so their brand could have been on it. So we simply duplicated exactly what they did. We printed our ballot book, just like I showed you, just as they would have on election day. We had none other than Mr. Owen Morrison, who's a veteran at being a returning officer, be the returning officer for the simulation, and he monitored it and ensured that we followed all the rules of elections and boundaries. Yet, and I'll get to the Chief Elections Officer press release in a minute in its totality, yet when she issued the press release she issued just recently, this was the last line she threw at us in her press release. I'll read the last line first. The general public is therefore advised, and of course the press release is entitled, "Your vote is secret." And the last line says, the general public is therefore advised that the process employed in the simulation conducted by Bufford is flawed and without merit. Again, they have one objective, to dismiss what we're doing. Well, let me tell you something. I will dismiss them tonight. I will dismiss all of them tonight in a few minutes. We had the simulation at St. Mary's Hall. 25 people voted. We were able to tell exactly how everyone voted, even those who spoiled their ballots. We were able to tell you exactly what they did to spoil their ballot. We repeated it here that night on the set here on Prem. But I want you to focus. Remember now, what is the objective of these people? Is to be able to continue to buy the elections. If they ever take that number off the back of the ballot, which is the only way that your vote would ever be secret in this country, is to remove that number off the back of the ballot paper. But they will resist it to the death, because the minute you do that, and I used to be so naive in my young political days and would get a rush and say, take their money and vote against them. They know and know. But they will. But if you take that ballot number off the back of the ballot paper, there will be no way under heaven that anybody will know how you voted. So their purchasing power of the election would be diminished and abolished instantly. I bet you when we get the number off the ballot paper, because we will. As a nation, we must, we have to. If we want this country for our children, we must free up this fraudulent, corrupt electoral system that we've had for all these years. We must do it. So I'm saying, when we get the ballot number removed from the ballot, from off the back of the ballot paper, you want to see how much money will pass election day to voters. I bet you it's going to be like if the ocean lost all its water and it becomes dry. I bet you not a politician will be crazy enough to pay anybody any money on election day when they have no way of knowing whether they voted for you or not. I bet you the purchasing will stop immediately. And it will only be perpetuated if they keep that ballot number on the back of that ballot paper. That's how they tell how you vote. Now, let's get to the lies that are being told to you. I wrote, let's start with the process. The Prime Minister had said, and he said it for all the world to hear, when he was interviewed, I think it was by Marisol from Krem, that he has always known the vote to be secret. But if it can be proven otherwise, he supposed that he will have to listen. Zenaida can tell you, I was so elated when I heard that. I felt good. The man is going to do the right thing, because I had no doubt that we will prove that it is not secret. So I was confident that he would have kept his word and listened. But to my dismay, Even after I wrote to him, telling him we've done 2 simulations. The public knows that the vote is not secret. We've showed you that it can be determined how people vote. So we are seeking a meeting with you to listen to us. Didn't get any answer. The date for the meeting came. It was the 18th of October. We asked to have the meeting. That day came. There was no answer. But what happened on that day, the day that we were supposed to have met with the Prime Minister, when we still did not get an answer, what happens? The Chief Elections Officer sends out this press release, which I will read quickly to you. And this is dated the 18th of October, the same day that we had asked to meet with the Prime Minister, where he didn't meet with us, didn't answer us. The Elections and Boundaries Department hereby informs the general public that in any election, the ballot papers are numbered for reconciliation and accountability purposes. Election officials have a responsibility. No, let me stop it. That's the first lie. Everybody, they perpetuate this lie that the reason you have to have the ballot number behind the ballot paper is to be able to reconcile the ballots on election day before the counting. Ladies and gentlemen, that is hogwash. That is total nonsense. You only need the number on the stub of the ballot paper in the book. It's the ballot book, for those who don't know, is like a raffle book. So the stub that is inside the ballot book, the stubs are numbered, and the ballot behind the ballot is also numbered with the same number for the corresponding stub. But you don't need the number behind the ballot paper itself to be able to tell how many people have voted and to account for how many votes should be in the ballot box. You only need the number on the stub, so that at the end of the vote on any period on election day, you simply go to the last stub that was torn out of the book. It's numbered. So in this case, this book is numbered 001 to 100. The last torn ballot from this book has to be 038, because 039 is the ballot that is here, that is still in the book. So at any point, if this was where you were in this book on election day, and you were asked how many people voted, you simply go to the sum and say, well, it has to be 38 because the next ballot that's in the book that has not been used says 039. You don't need to look behind the ballot paper at this number to reconcile anything. So that's the first falsehood I want you all to understand. When the election and boundaries tell you that they need to have this number behind the ballot paper to reconcile the ballots, it is a lie, it is a lie, it is a lie. You only need the number that's on the stub. That's all you need. Okay, so let me continue with the release, because this is where we will expose the lie. The public is advised that the law does not require any presiding officer or any election official to inform anyone of the ballot book series of the ballot paper number he or she issues at any given point during the election process. Now let me tell you something. All of you out there in this country that have worked election day in the polling stations as scrutineers and even as presiding officers and polling officers, you know that the purpose the scrutineers are in that room with that presiding officer is to do just that, scrutinize him or her. It's to scrutinize, to make sure that the presiding officer is conducting that election above reproach, without any favor or any inaccuracies being conducted. You are there to ensure that he's following the rules and he's being fair and so on and so on. And they always start, because I've always been inside the polling station for every election I've ever run. When the polls open, before the polls open, sorry, they call in everybody to that table. The first thing they do is open the ballot box to show that the box is empty. They close it in front of you. They show you all the election materials. They show you the ballot books that they're going to be using, because you use several ballot books during the day, not just one. And they will tell you, I am starting with this book. This is the number on the ballot, book. When they exhaust that book and they're going to go to a second book, they tell you what book they're starting with. Now the release is trying to tell you that that is not what happens, but all of you out there, you question yourselves, those that are scrutineers. That is what is done. So you know, they tell you, because they have to account to you and they have to account to the nation. All right? But it gets better. So now she says, whenever the presiding officer issues a ballot paper to a voter, the voter proceeds behind a polling booth within the polling station to privately cast his or her vote. The voter is then requested to fold the ballot paper in such a way so as to conceal his or her vote prior to placing the ballot paper in the ballot box. Furthermore, in order to safeguard the secrecy of the vote, listen carefully, Section 39 of the Representation of the People Act makes provision for offenses for any person who infringes the secrecy of the vote. Please see attachment. Any of these infringements carries a penalty of a fine not exceeding $1,000 and in default to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 1 year. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to listen to this carefully. The Elections and Boundaries Department assures the general public that training for public officers assigned election duties will continue and the issuing, this is what I want you to key in, and the issuing of random ballots be maintained. For those of you who may not be following, what do we mean the issuance of random ballots? What the Chief Elections Officer is saying in this release is that on election day, in the polling station, when the presiding officer is issuing the ballots to the voter, he is going all over this ballot book like crazy and just pull at random from all over. That's a lie. Anybody who has ever worked as a presiding officer in any election knows that that is a lie. The votes are issued in the ballots are issued in sequential order. That is how it's done. So for the elections officer, the chief elector, on the 18th of October, to issue a statement saying that the way the ballots are issued in elections in Belize is they tear it in random order from the book, she's lying to the world and to the nation, and everybody in Belize who votes knows it, and who issues the ballot knows that she's lying. Plain and simple, she's lying to this nation. But she's lying to a population that knows differently. So how do you hope to get away with this farce and this lie? Everybody knows differently, but it gets better. She says, it has never been the standard practice that ballot books numbered sequence are announced at the polling station, nor are ballots, listen to this, nor are ballots issued to voters in sequential order. The woman is lying twice in the same paragraph. She says, the elections among the will continue and the issuing of random ballots be maintained, as though that's how it's being done presently. It is a lie. That's not how it's done. And she repeats the lie. It has never, and never is in bold. It has, and you've got the copy right there in your phone. It has never been the standard practice that ballot books number sequence are announced at the polling station, nor are ballots issued to voters in sequential order. Ladies and gentlemen, if they were striking down like in this Bible for people who lie, you may don't drop down. Listen, I am angry because this is a crime against our people that is being committed here. I am angry that she and the Prime Minister and the leader of the opposition has caused me to have to get to this place tonight to call them out. These are people who I should be respecting and honoring their integrity, but I have to stand before the nation to whom they have lied to expose their lies. It's not a good task that I have here tonight, but it's a task if this country is to rise out of the pit and the miry clay in which it has submerged itself. Somebody has to stand up and tell the truth. Somebody has to do it. And then her last paragraph, the general public is therefore advised that the process employed in the simulation conducted by Bufford is flawed and without merit. Now, what Ms. Tamai did not know, you see, I do my homework, you know. That's one thing with me. I will do my homework. When I put my neck on the line, I've got to make sure that nobody can chop it off. Not even the Prime Minister or the leader of the or her. What she did not know is that I arranged with a person who lives in the UK is married to a Belizean. He's a British soldier that got married to a Belizean here. Was in Belize for a number of years during the neighbor period, and that's how I got to know him. I have always known that when the tire hits the road, the one curtain that they would try to hide behind in deceiving you that your vote is secret. Only one curtain they can hide behind is the curtain of this lie that the votes are issued randomly and not sequentially. Because they know how you know how they vote, because they know the ballot is issued in sequence, and that's how the scrutineers can trace the ballot number that each voter gets. Check the back of the ballot during the count and tell exactly how everybody votes in this country. They know it. Anyway, so I said to my friend, this thing is going to get nasty. They're going to try to just bamboozle their way past us and keep the status quo of the vote, saying it's secret when they know it's not secret. I said, there is one thing I need to get in writing from Elections and Boundaries, but if I write and ask them, they won't answer me. So I'm begging you to do it for me. Write to them and ask them just one question. How is the ballot issued by the Elections and Boundaries on election day? And my friend did that. He lives in England. And this is the email he sent. And I've given a copy to the studio audience here, so everything I'm reading here, they can verify that I'm not lying or making it up. He writes, Sir, Madam, there seems to be a lot of discussion currently about the secrecy of a person's vote in an election in Belize. I have but one question that you may be able to answer. And then he quotes, in the polling station, when the electoral officer issues a ballot to the voter from the ballot book, does the electoral officer issue the ballots sequentially or in random order? That's the question I asked my friend to put to them because I wanted something documented coming from them answering that question. And he says, thank you in anticipation of an early response. And don't you know, Mr. Mai answers that person. She answers that person, I believe it is on the, where's the date? On here, the 24th? No. She answers him before she issues the press release. I think it's like 2 days before that she issued the press release on the 19th of October. She answers this person. And I want you to read the answer Mr. Mai gives and compare it to the press release she put out, Election and Boundaries put out, that I just read. He says, indeed, many thanks for your email. Indeed, that there are persons who want others to believe that the vote in Belize is not secret. I will inform you that this is totally and outrightly untrue. That's what she tells my friend. As a matter of fact, the Belize Constitution demands that the vote be secret. Thank God she knows that. Furthermore, the Representation of the People Act, which is the act which governs elections, have penalties for offenses for those who attempt to compromise the secrecy of the vote. To answer your question directly, now, ladies and gentlemen, please, especially those skeptics and those naysayers and haters out there, I'm asking you for the sake of Belize, put your blind political loyalty aside for 1 second and be an objective evaluator of the facts that are being put for you. This is coming from the same person, you know. She says one thing to the public in her press release and she says another to the voter, to the person that writes to her and asks her to answer that question. She says, to answer your question directly, whenever ballot books are issued to the presiding officer, who is the person responsible to initial and issue the ballot on polling day, listen now, those ballots are issued in the order left to the discretion of the presiding officer. In the press release, she says it is by random order that they are issued. Twice she said it, in random order. Yet, days before, she tells this person that presiding officer, who is the person responsible to initial and issue the ballot, those ballots are issued in the order left to the discretion of the presiding officer. Officers, listen to me, Officers are trained to issue randomly, but no particular order is dictated to him or her, as that information is not shared with absolutely anyone. Now imagine, ladies and gentlemen, this is the person that is in charge of this nation's election, to run a tight ship, to make sure that there's no room for fraud or error or mistake. And she is telling you in writing that the way in which presiding officers issue ballots on voting day isn't dictated by elections and boundaries. They have no say in it. They leave it to the discretion of these presiding officers. There are 300 and I may have that number wrong, but it's a large number around the country when you're talking about the general elections. Now you imagine, according to her, it's each to himself and to himself alone. They could do whatever they want out there on election day. Election and boundaries has no say in it. So it's a free-for-all, according to her, by the presiding officers out there on election day. They do what the hell they damn please out there. Election and boundaries has no say in it. So according to her, some they issue it sequentially, some they issue it randomly. That's what she's telling the person she's answering. But to the public, 2 days later, she says no such thing. She says it is by random order that it is issued. That's how they are trained to do it, and that's how it is never, she used the word, it is never done sequentially. She said it to the public 2 days later. It is never done sequentially. Yet, to my friend in England, 2 days before, she says, oh, they do what they want. Random, sequential, elections are okay. They do what they want. They got their own field day out there. We're not concerned. We're not involved with in that. But says just the opposite to the public. Why? Why? Because in their warped mind, the public will feel, oh, if they issue it randomly, as she says in her public release, oh, they can't tell how we vote. But to the person, she's telling them that they do whichever way they want. No, the bottom line is, the truth is, she's lying in both documents. She's lying to the person who wrote to her that they do what they want, it either sequential or otherwise. And in the press release, she's lying to say that it is done randomly, it's never done sequentially. Well, let me tell you. It is always done sequentially. Pick sense out of nonsense. Can you imagine the mayhem, the absolute mayhem in this nation if presiding officers are pulling ballots at random from a ballot book? What happens? The polls open at 7 o'clock. What happens 9 o'clock when Elections and Boundaries has to make the first report to the nation as to how many ballots have been cast in this country? You could imagine if all of those presiding officers have to stop because they would have to stop the process. They would have to stop the vote, ladies and gentlemen, and get with one microscope or one magnifying glass and begin to go through that book and find out every place where they may tear one ballot from and count it individually. 12 o'clock will come and they still don't know how much people vote at 9 o'clock. But the reason they can immediately tell Election Boundaries how many people have voted by 9, because they are tearing the ballot sequentially. So all they do, they go to the last torn ballot out of the book. And if it says 300, and they started the book with 001, then you know at 9 o'clock, 299 voted. And they do it again every hour or every 2 hours. That's how they go around the country and get the statistics from all these presiding officers. You can imagine the chaos. It's already bad to hear. It's already bad to hear that under their leadership, the presiding officers do what they want on election day. According to her, they do what they want. It's up to them. We have no say in that. To the public, oh, it is random. They never issue it sequentially. When it's a lie, they do it sequentially because that's how you can respond instantly and give the count that has voted in your polling station. Now let's get to the place where I am waiting for the response from the Prime Minister. He doesn't answer me in time for the meeting. He answers me the day after the meeting. And surprise, 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 what does the Prime Minister say? You have his answer right there. It says, "Dear sir," you know when I got this? The day after Ms. Tamai puts out her release, on the 19th of October. You know when I got it? It says here, sent at 4:38 p.m. I didn't get it until after 8 o'clock that night. But that's BTL for you, and that really doesn't matter. But it says, "Dear sir, I am only now seeing your request for a meeting." It come back from the weekend, you know. But Thursday is when, and the meeting was asked for Wednesday, but he's writing to me Thursday evening. "I am only now seeing your request for a meeting. The date you asked for is already gone." Surprise, surprise, surprise. But in any event, I take the position set out by the Elections and Boundaries Department. Thus, I see no need for a meeting. This is the man who promised that if it can be shown to me that the vote is not secret, I will have to think. And I fed and I believed his every word that he would so do. But who was the first person out of the starting gate before the Prime Minister and before the Chief Elections Officer? None other than the leader of the opposition. He is the first person that took to the airwaves after we had done both simulations and got up and told the public that with a nonsense, and we know we do with the alarm the public, and then nothing got saw, and the vote is secret. And I knew from John Senior did that. And if you want to hear the interview, just go to Love FM and ask them for a clip. But I heard John Senior make that statement, I already knew what was coming behind. That's why I asked my friend in England to write Elections and Boundaries that letter, because I knew that's where they would go in their false, corrupt defense to say that the ballot is issued randomly, not sequentially. But I have shown you tonight where the chief elector is lying. One day she says one thing, the next day she says another thing to the public, and the truth of it, she's lying in both documents. She's lying in both documents. Now, let me get to the point. That's the critical matter here. We need the number behind the ballot. That's how we reconcile. That's how we keep the elections fair. Hogwash, I've shown you why. That's a lie. As long as a ballot number is kept behind a ballot paper, your vote will never be secret in this country. They can say all the lies, but I will bring them back to one place. Oh, the presiding officers are not required to tell you the ballot numbers that they are starting with in the ballot book, so you can track it. But then you shouldn't be able to track it because they say they are tearing the ballots randomly, so you shouldn't be able to track it. But that's a lie too. So you can track it because they are pulling it sequentially. And they've been doing it for decades and decades and decades and decades. No. Even if you don't let the scrutineers know the number on the ballot book that you're starting with, let's say you hide it from them, they have no idea what number the presiding officer is going to issue to the voters. Let's give them that, let's see. But there will be one person who will always know what ballot number you're getting. And that's the same presiding officer who is issuing the ballot once the ballot has a number on the back. Because he is the one that has to tear the ballot from the book. And if nobody else sees it, he is seeing it. So he knows the ballot number that Derek Aikman gets because he sees it on the stub. And if they keep it on the back, he also knows that it's on the back. And the same way, we can tell by using the ballot number on the back how everybody votes. The presiding officer will be able to tell how I vote. And so my vote will still not be split. And with the level of corruption in this country, it's nothing for political bosses to say, listen man, for a certain number of dollars and for certain properties or whatever, You just run the show. You make sure one of the scrutineers in there knows exactly. You may not tell it to all of them, but you make sure that agent so-and-so that is in collusion with you, that I'm paying both of you, you make sure she knows the sequence of the ballots that you're issuing, because I need to know how everybody votes in there. There's nothing to stop that. It has happened. But these officers are not above reproach. And the corruption is choking us, you see. So, as long as there's a number on the back of the ballot, your vote will never be secret. However, and I'm going to end here for right now, all that you need, ladies and gentlemen, and I want you to understand this, is to take the number off the back of the ballot. That will make your vote secret, and I'll explain why. If there is no number behind the ballot, but the stub is numbered, which is what all Buffett is saying, take the number off the ballot, leave the stubs numbered for your accounting purposes. When the presiding officer, and understand this, if the number is off the back of the ballot, then I don't care. It doesn't matter that the scrutineers know the sequence on the ballot book. They can know. The presiding officer in Freetown is starting with ballot book 001 to 500. Let the world know. It's not a secret, ladies and gentlemen. So they are saying here that they don't tell them. They tell them. But let them take the number off the back of the ballot, and you can tell the world. Freetown, the start. 001 to 500. So the first person who walks in will get 001. The second person to walk will get 002. And just like that until 500, you'll know exactly which ballot they're getting. But the sequence, the ballot number is not on the back of the ballot. So the tracking of your vote stops. If the number is not on the ballot, stops when they tear the ballot from the booklet. Because yes, he may know from the stub that Derek Aikman got 205. But when my ballot goes into that box without that 205 on the back of the ballot, Jesus would have to come down from heaven during the count when all you have is a blank ballot back. They will never be able to tell how you voted once that number is not there. And they'll be able to keep their accountability, because all you need to know, X number of ballots thrown out the book, that's the amount of ballots that should be in the box. You open the box, the ballot number is correct, you start the count. And you can show back and front, but you will never be able to trace how I voted if you take the number off the back of the ballot. And any prime minister, any leader of the opposition who is wanting to become prime minister, and any chief election officer who will turn a blind eye to this and insist to keep this ballot number on the back of the ballot so they can tell how you vote, don't deserve to be in the positions they're in. And you as the citizen should demand that this stops, and stops today, because we will never be free in this country once your vote is not secret. Once who becomes government is bought for and paid for, not through your vote based on your assessment of the worthiness of the candidates who are presenting themselves to lead you. So, ladies and gentlemen, tonight, I'm going to end now. This was not easy for me to do. Who wants to take on a prime minister? Who wants to take on a leader of the opposition? Who wants to take on a chief elections officer? But somebody had to stop their nonsense. If we want to preserve this nation, if we want to end the hotbed of corruption, and notice I haven't touched registering officers in the system who are registering people at addresses where they don't live. That's a whole other story. The padding of the voters list. That's a whole other story. We're just dealing tonight with the secrecy or non-secrecy of the ballot that the Prime Minister, the leader of the opposition, and the Chief Electoral Officer are promulgating in this land. Enough is enough is enough. Bufford is begging all religious leaders, all union leaders, all civil society, all social partners to rise up in defense of our nation and demand that we liberate ourselves from this travesty of justice. The organization Buffer that I represent says Belizeans united for equal rights at home and abroad. The basic right of every citizen is to have the protection guaranteed by the Constitution that our vote is to be secret. Stop at nothing. I repeat, stop at nothing, Belizeans, and get this right. If not for you, for my children that are behind me, and for this country. May God bless you all.
All right, thank you very much, Derek. We're gonna go to our last ad break, and when we come back, we are gonna open the floor to our studio audience if they have any questions or comments. We will have a short time in the event anybody wants to ask a question. You know, I do have my phone 615-9494 and the
621-0764.
All right, so when again 615-9494
621-0764.
Okay, so we're going to go to our ad break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after these messages.
Geo Motors, the best motor for Belize. It is here, a new brand with a new edge on motorsports when it comes to performance. They are here in your geolocation. Geo Motors, the best motor for Belize. It's the new brand with a new edge in motorsports when it comes to performance. Now they're here in your geolocation. These new Geo bikes are an improved version of motorbikes in their class, with a silent engine and new electrical safety features. When it comes to durability, the wheels carry no spokes. They guarantee a safer and stronger ride. If you think about your gas mileage, Geo has the best, most fuel-efficient motors. The best motors you could buy. Our 2.0 engines are designed to burn less fuel to produce more power, keeping you riding firm and comfortable for longer. Even if you go faster, Geo Motor will take you. Geo will take you anywhere you wish. So go countrywide today. Use the number on your screen and call our agent near you.
Tell Digicel no bother try cause a smarter run the show. Every time them a try say switch my provider, me say no. Me no want your plan, nobody want your plan. Digicel we no want your plan, we no want your plan. Nobody want your plan, cause smarter run the nation. Me no want your plan, nobody want your plan. Digicel we no want your plan, we no want your plan. Nobody want your plan, cause smarter run the nation. Smart have all the best plans. Make you choose between this one and that one. Smart 4G are the best one. Me no got time for the Digicel one. Viber, Facebook, Snapchat, send videos and voice clipping on me WhatsApp. Smart and love and we know a nice phone and we want it. Smart, bringing people together. Glamour glasses.
Buying or selling land can be a daunting experience. Don't leave things to chance. When buying or selling land in Belize, seek the professional real estate services of Moya Shepherd and Company Limited. Benefit from our extensive local and international network to find your dream home or to move your property from selling to sold. Our land consultancy services also include appraisals, conveyances, registrations, surveys, transfers, title searches, and the preparation of all other legal documentation and land transaction processes. We are located at 5 miles Philip Golson Highway. Give us a call at 223-4465 or visit us at www.cbelizerealestate.com.
Ask any landscape professional who they depend on for professional grade power tools, and the answer is always the same: Echo. Ask any dealer who offers the most powerful, most durable, and most reliable equipment in the business, and they'll tell you Echo. Then ask yourself, doesn't your lawn and garden deserve the professional's choice? Echo. The best outdoor power equipment you can buy.
Educational, and I hope empowering to people that they understand that something needs to be done, that the serial number has to come off of that ballot. Now, before we go to the audience, let me just say that one of the positions that during my tenure as a public officer and as a head of department in the government service, one of the posts I held during one of the elections that I worked in as a public officer was as a presiding officer. I was in charge of that particular polling station, and I can tell you that I did tear off those ballots sequentially. There's no way in hell I was going to, you know, go in and try to do it randomly. There's no way. I mean, it's ridiculous. I had to do it that way simply because that's the easiest way to do it as well. I mean, you count it when they need to, when they call, when they need to know how many votes have been counted. I need to give them an account. Now, I will say, with fairness to the public officers, not everyone, there may be some public officers who may be in collusion in that. However, we're at no point I don't think you're saying that all public officers. So there may be some. However, that's why the scrutineers are there. They can do that. That's what they do. So I will tell you that that's the point. And I never during any of the trainings they told me that okay, I'm supposed to tear out those ballots randomly, because I do have to initial it and everything, and no, it was done sequentially. So I'd like to open up the floor now and ask if anyone has any question or comments.
All right, just a slight.
Just say your name and where you represent again, please.
All right. Once again, Ian Mariana here, and definitely I'm a teacher. Okay. When we talk about representation, I'm a teacher by profession, representing the Belize National Teachers Union. Also, I'm a sports activist. You know, the Belize Hurricanes. I've been involved in basketball, and you know, just basically working with young people for well over, you know, a couple of years. But my concern goes along with that. I love the message that you presented, and it's something that is definitely an eye-opener. However, I think that it's important that it be doctored or tailored or catered for our young people, because I'm not sure that they would necessarily sit and hear everything. So I would want to challenge your group to cater to young people so that they can hear this information, so that they can be educated, you know, because quite often we hear the tidbit of, you know, just take the money and buy and you know, do what you want, and then you don't know exactly how you're actually impacting your future, yourself, and so forth. And I must say that in our classrooms, actually, day before yesterday, we actually discussed something similar to this, and you could know when it's election time, because when you pass through the alleyways or you pass different areas, you know, guys where they probably beg you for $1 and they got 2 guineas, they got, you know, then they eat chow mein and then they live large, and then they would suffer along the line, you know, and so these are some of the realities. And so therefore, I would really want to challenge your group to actually cater this message, tailor the message for young people, because let's be real, that's where the real go-getter is, and that's the reason why our political organization, the arms, are actually reaching out to the younger crew, you know, because they know that is where the votes are at. So that's just my observation and wonderful presentation.
Very valid
Thank you.
observation.
And just quickly, one thing before we move on to our other guests. Another thing is that what was mentioned in terms of informing those in the polling station, the serial numbers that will be used, that was done. I would literally inform and shout out such and such a, whatever the serial number is, we're going to start at such and such a serial number and go to so and so, and that's how we did it. So I'm just letting you know that as well. So yes, so they would be able to know exactly what number as well, even in that manner, and seeing it as well. So it was going to be easy.
Derek, I don't know if you saw the movie, The Blockbuster.
I don't think so.
Right around the time that you were doing your presentation at St. Mary's, there was a Blockbuster movie in Belize. There was a story that came out that said that there was a boy missing. And then the people got angry. And the boy was missing for 4 days. And it was thought the GSU took the boy. And then the students had a demonstration with no permit. And the police didn't stop them. And there were shots fired, and there were not shots fired, and there were warning shots fired. And there were slugs found in trees. And a boy was in the bush for 4 days without a mosquito bite. Okay? And then he came out of the bush and his father found him. And the Prime Minister gave a speech and said that they wouldn't charge him because they couldn't prove he was at the scene, even though he admitted he ran away from the scene. And all this went down when you were doing your presentation. And there was one media house that showed up and aired it. None of the other media houses came. So I say that the corruption is in the media and in the government, because the media works along with the government and does not challenge the government to the questions they should ask. And so we got to see that Blockbuster. The Prime Minister ended it and said they wouldn't charge the boy, even though the boy admitted he'd ran away from a scene with gunshots. And then the Prime Minister said that gas would go down by the middle of October. And it's the end of October. And gas hasn't gone down. So Belize, you know the system is corrupt. You're all part of the corruption. But what are you going to do? Because we got $7 billion to deal with. We're only 350,000. And if we don't unify as one people, we're damned.
Well, of course, thanks, Derek, for invite me. I think majority of people know about my art due to the fact one, a lot of my pieces is very, very powerful. You were a politician. I was very angry hearing some of the stuff what you say, and obviously everything's on paper and not true. I don't do politics. I really don't. But what I always try to do, every painting I do, every subject we hit this country, I try to do a painting about it. A lot of people say it's political, it's this. But I had realized years ago, you cannot please everybody. I try to reach Belize public through my painting, okay? I know they have to scrutinize nobody, but what I just heard today, of course, I'm going to do my own research, and if that's the way they go on, I could tell you, as a country, we're doomed, because realistically, I see the other day they get 22 police vehicles, and I tell my neighbors then in the parade with police vehicle, unless the corruption done, and we create jobs for this younger generation, then we need 1,000 more, 1 million more police vehicles, and we now have no result and no success in this country. It's unfortunate that they come to this at the end of the day, but I want to do what I do. I don't know a politician, I know they are, I do both. If I see something happen today, like the piece where they're behind you with with the cancer and breast cancer month, I try hit subject. I do pieces with the US president, I do pieces with the ministers here and stuff like that. The thing is, at the end of the day, brother, this is how I get through people. But all what I'm saying, paintings are powerful. And I've been scrutinized for certain pieces, whatever, but I'm going to do what Alex Sanka does best. I'm not here to rub against nobody. I'm doing what I'm doing as a citizen of Belize. And I'm really, really scared about my future younger kids. This stuff now affect we, you know, Derek. Yeah. This stuff will affect the younger, the 1-year-old, 2-year-old, whatever. And it will be one sad day when you say, 350, 400 million people have no source of income, because every dollar this country make, we spend it. There's no surplus for the last, 100 years. All what we keep doing is owing and owing and owing. And at the end of the day, like you said, people have to stand up, man. This is our kids' future. Forget about me and you. Yeah. We is about to go through the door. We here hitting old age. So at the end of the day, thanks for bringing this, and I really appreciate everything you did, because now at least I have proof that, you know what, I need to do more. Yeah. Thank you very much, Moya, for inviting us, and I appreciate it.
Thank you too.
Glad to having you, Alex.
All right, folks, my name is Abdul Nunes, and I want to say publicly that I endorse this message, while I will not and I cannot speak on behalf of the BPP. As Abdul Nunes, I am saying to all tertiary institutions here in this country, if we intend to change Belize, it has to begin with us. When the President of the United States wanted to send people to the moon, the first persons he contacted were the universities. What are we teaching in our universities if not to think, and to think critically, and wanting to know, is this true? The universities, the tertiary institutions should be begging, literally begging, for assimilation of this nature to be done at their institution in their presence. So if the future of the nation can't think, then we are doomed. So this is saying, no, I'm saying this publicly, listen to me carefully. We need to ask ourselves this question. If we were in the place that the ministers of government are in right now with Dodo people, would we not be doing them the same? Because they can't think. They can't rationalize and reason this very same simple concept that you are being bought and paid for, and it will continue. They will continue to reign so long as they have the money to pay you. $100 for some and one truckload of sand. That is all you are worth. So in essence, you only worth chump change for 5 years. I've divided the $100 by 12, and then you divide it by 5. And that is how much you are worth. You are only worth, each Belizean in a Belize, you are only worth $100 and a truckload of sand. That's all you worth. If you know you deserve more and you worth more, then you need to join this fight and make them take that number off of the ballot.
All right.
Let's wrap up.
Yes, I would like to say that thank you very much for being a part of this historic show. I want to thank all of you here joining us tonight for being witnesses, you know, and for really being in the audience and representing the population of Belize, who everybody can't be in studio, but we had a representation of the different areas. I want to say thank you to you, Derek, for putting together your presentation and for being bold enough, for having the courage and the strength to be able to literally inform us, educate us. This is something important. It affects us because at the end of the day, we need to be free. Slavery comes in all different forms, and we are being slaves by having the different political parties know how we vote. We are being slaves. We're slaves. We're modern day slaves. And so we have to cut that out. We literally have to cut that out. All right? So I would like to thank all of the sponsors as well. We have Smart Belize, Universal Hardware, Geo Motor, Moya Shepherd and Company Limited, and Aikman. Thank you very much. We have our technical crew. We have, of course, Cliff. We have Abdullah Saif and Raspita. And I believe, yeah, we have our team, and so I want to thank you. And the dancer, we'd like to thank her as well. And of course, all of you watching, thank you very much. Remember, this show will be repeated on Sunday at midday on Creme Television. And of course, you can always go to the Zenaida Moya Show Facebook page and Creme Television Facebook page. It is on there. It was live streamed, so you can go and view that as well. So with that said, thank you very much. Next week, sure. Next week we will be having another exciting show. We won't be speaking about this issue. We'll be speaking about another issue. So you will want to stay tuned as well.
Yeah, I just have one sentence for everybody. Remember just one thing. We can do all things through Christ, who strengthens us. I have nothing more to say. Good night. Thank you.
Good night, and may God bless you all.